"He looks like your dead son," said the millionaire's girlfriend when she saw the Blackstreet Kid. Then Jonathan Richardson's world stopped. The phrase cut through the cold December morning air like a sharp blade, echoing across the empty shopping center parking lot. The blonde woman at his side, Victoria, had uttered those words as casually as one might comment on the weather, unaware that she had just reopened a wound that had taken Jonathan 5 years to heal. The boy was sitting there on the sidewalk in front of the main entrance, holding a piece of cardboard scribbled on by hand. He must have been about 10 years old, the same age his son David would be today if he were still alive. The resemblance was disturbing, the same curly hair, the same shape of the face, even the way he tilted his head when he watched people passing by. "Jonathan? Are you okay? You look like you've seen a ghost," Victoria laughed, adjusting her designer bag on her shoulder. "Let's go, the restaurant must be packed." But Jonathan couldn't move. His eyes remained fixed on the boy, who now looked back at him with childlike curiosity. It was as if David had stepped straight out of the photographs he kept religiously in his wallet, as if time had stopped on that terrible day of the accident. "Sir, do you have any change?" asked the boy, struggling to his feet. His clothes were too big, clearly donated, and his sneakers were full of holes, exposing his toes. Victoria immediately took a few steps back, as if poverty were contagious. "Jonathan, let's go. You know we shouldn't encourage these people. They're just after more money." The successful businessman, owner of a chain of restaurants that made millions a year, remained paralyzed. There was something in that boy's eyes that awakened memories he tried to keep buried. The same intelligence, the same quiet determination he saw in David when the boy insisted on helping in the kitchen, dreaming of becoming a chef like his father. "What's your name?" Jonathan asked, ignoring Victoria's growing protests. "Gabriel, sir. Gabriel Santos." At that moment, something inside Jonathan broke and mended at the same time. It wasn't just the physical resemblance that disturbed him, it was the boy's dignified posture, even in poverty. The same dignity David had always maintained, even when cancer treatments left him too weak to play. Victoria pulled Jonathan's arm hard. "Enough. We're late, and you're making a fool of yourself. Let's go now." But as she spoke, Jonathan noticed something that made her shut her mouth immediately. Gabriel had bent down to pick up some papers that the wind had scattered on the ground. Not his, but those of an elderly man carrying heavy bags. The boy returned the documents carefully and even helped the man organize his groceries, without asking for anything in return. Jonathan watched every movement, every gesture of kindness, and felt his heart race in a way he hadn't experienced in years. There was something about that boy that defied all the prejudices Victoria had just verbalized, something that reminded him not only of the son he had lost, but of the man he himself used to be before tragedy hardened his heart. Gabriel returned to his place on the sidewalk and smiled shyly at Jonathan, a smile that carried hope despite all the adversity visible on his thin face and in his worn clothes. If you're wondering why a millionaire would be so shaken by the sight of a simple street kid, don't forget to subscribe to the channel, because this story of unlikely encounters is just beginning, and what happened next changed the lives of everyone involved forever in a way that no one could have predicted. Victoria couldn't understand why Jonathan remained there, standing like a statue, watching that dirty child as if she were the most important thing in the world. After 2 years of dating the most coveted businessman in town, she had grown accustomed to the life of luxury, but never to his moments of weakness. "Jonathan, for God's sake. You're making a ridiculous scene," she whispered through clenched teeth, checking to see if anyone she knew was watching. "People are going to think we've lost our minds." But Jonathan didn't hear her. His mind had gone back 5 years in time, to that cold hospital where David had spent his last months. The boy, even weakened by chemotherapy, always found the strength to smile at the nurses, always shared his toys with other children in the hospital, always asked if his father was okay when he was the one who needed comforting. "Gabriel," Jonathan repeated the name in a low voice, as if testing how it sounded. "How old are you?" 10, sir. I'll be 11 in March." The same age David was when he died. The same birthday. Victoria rolled her eyes dramatically. "Great, now we're going to interrogate him? Jonathan, you're being pathetic. This kid probably hasn't been to school a day in his life, and here you are wasting your time as if he's a person." Jonathan interrupted, turning to face her for the first time since they arrived. "Don't be dramatic. You know exactly what I meant. These people need to learn to fend for themselves. You giving them handouts will only bring more of them here." Gabriel lowered his head, clearly uncomfortable with the discussion unfolding about him as if he weren't there. But Jonathan noticed something interesting. The boy showed no anger or resentment. Just a resigned sadness, as if he had heard similar comments many times before. "Where do you sleep, Gabriel?" Jonathan asked, completely ignoring Victoria's exasperated sigh. "There's a shelter a few blocks away, sir. But only when there's room. When there isn't, I stay right here." The boy pointed to a side entrance of the mall, partially protected from the rain. Victoria crossed her arms, her patience reaching its limit. "There, now you know the sad story. Can we go? Our reservation was for noon and it's already 12:15. Jonathan watched Gabriel carefully gather his few belongings. A thin blanket, a worn notebook, and a pen that looked like it had been found in the trash. There was something about the meticulous way the boy organized his things that piqued his curiosity. "What do you write in that notebook?" Gabriel hesitated before answering, as if afraid Jonathan would laugh at him. I write down things I see. Stories I imagine. My mother taught me to write before." His voice faltered for a moment. "Before she left." Left. Jonathan's heart sank. She got sick. Lung cancer. She worked cleaning offices, but when she got too weak to work, Gabriel shrugged. The hospital said there was nothing they could do without money. She died 2 years ago. Victoria let out a bitter laugh. "Sure, the dead mother story. They always have a dramatic story ready. Jonathan, you're being manipulated by a 10-year-old. It's embarrassing." But Jonathan had been watching Gabriel's eyes as he spoke, and he recognized a pain there that he himself carried. The pain of losing someone you love because of a lack of resources, because of a system that fails when you need it most, because of a disease that devours dreams and leaves only longing behind. "Do you still write stories?" he asked softly. Gabriel nodded shyly. "I write about people who help other people. About happy families. About children who have parents who love them." He paused, realizing he might have revealed too much. "They're just silly stories." "They're not silly," Jonathan replied with a firmness that surprised him. "Dreaming is the most important thing a person can do." Victoria snorted loudly. "Oh please. Are we going to have a cheap philosophy lesson on the sidewalk now? Jonathan, you're being ridiculous. If you don't come with me now, I'm going alone, and you can explain to all our friends why you'd rather play social worker." It was at that moment that something inside Jonathan crystallized. He looked at the woman he had shared his bed for 2 years, a woman he thought he knew, and realized he was looking at a stranger. When had he lost the ability to see beyond the surface of things? When had he become so closed off in his own bubble of privilege that he had forgotten what it was like to feel genuine compassion? Gabriel, sensing the tension, began to discreetly back away. "I don't want to cause any trouble, sir. Thank you for talking to me." "Wait," Jonathan said, gently placing his hand on the boy's shoulder. "Have you had lunch today?" Gabriel shook his head, trying to hide his embarrassment. Victoria exploded. "This is your last warning, Jonathan. Either you come with me right now, or our relationship is over right here." Jonathan looked at her, then at Gabriel, and for the first time in years he felt he was seeing things with complete clarity. There was a choice being made there, but it wasn't just about lunch or charity. It was about what kind of man he would choose to be from now on. What Victoria didn't know was that Gabriel carried a worn school ID card in his pocket with grades that would make any parent proud, from a public school where he studied at night after spending all day trying to earn money to survive. She didn't know that the boy spoke 3 languages he had taught himself from books he found in the trash, or that his scribbles in his notebook were actually elaborate stories that revealed an intelligence and sensitivity that would move any literature teacher. But something in Jonathan's determined gaze at that moment told her that he was about to discover much more about this boy than any rich, prejudiced person could ever imagine, and that this discovery would not only change his life, but completely redefine his understanding of what really matters in the world. Jonathan's choice was crystal clear. He turned to Victoria with a calmness she had never seen before, a tranquility that somehow made her feel more afraid than any scream could have caused. "So our relationship ends right here," he said simply, taking his wallet out of his pocket. "Gabriel, how about we go to lunch? I know a place that serves the best Italian food in town." Victoria stood there for a few seconds, as if she couldn't process that she was being publicly rejected for a street kid. When reality finally sank in, her mask of elegance disappeared completely. You're choosing this. This nobody over me? Jonathan, you've completely lost your mind. When this nice phase passes and you realize the mistake you're making, don't come looking for me. She adjusted her designer purse violently. And you can be sure that all our friends will know what kind of man you really are. They'll know that you prefer the company of beggars. Gabriel lowered his head, clearly uncomfortable at being the center of such hostility. Mr. Jonathan, I don't want to cause any trouble between you two. Maybe I should leave. No way, Jonathan replied firmly, placing his hand protectively on the boy's shoulder. Victoria, you can go. Gabriel and I have something to talk about. Victoria stormed off, not before shouting loudly enough for several people to stop and stare. I hope you two are very happy together. When this kid steals your wallet, remember who tried to warn you. After she left, Jonathan felt as if a weight had been lifted from his shoulders. There was something liberating about finally seeing the true personality of the woman with whom he had shared 2 years of his life. He turned his attention to Gabriel, who was watching everything with wide, confused eyes. I'm sorry about that, Gabriel. No one should talk to you like that. It's okay, sir. I'm used to it. The boy shrugged with a maturity disturbing for his age. Mrs. Victoria isn't the first person to think those things about me. As they walked toward the restaurant, Jonathan noticed that Gabriel was discreetly reading the store signs, moving his lips silently as if practicing pronunciation. Curious, he pointed to a sign in Spanish at a Mexican restaurant. Do you know what that says? Gabriel hesitated before answering. Casa de la Abuela. It means grandma's house in Spanish. He blushed slightly. I taught myself from books that people throw away. Jonathan stopped walking, impressed. What other languages do you know? Well, English and French too. Not perfectly, but I can understand and speak a little. I found some old dictionaries and Gabriel realized he might be saying too much. I'm sorry, I know this must sound strange. Strange? Gabriel, that's extraordinary. Jonathan felt a mixture of admiration and indignation. How could a child with so much potential be living on the streets, while others wasted opportunities they didn't even value? At the restaurant, a discreet but elegant establishment Jonathan had frequented for years, the waiter greeted them with his usual professional courtesy. Gabriel watched everything with wide eyes, clearly intimidated by the refined surroundings. You can order anything, Jonathan said softly. Anything at all. Gabriel studied the menu with intense concentration, moving his lips as he read each item. Jonathan realized that the boy wasn't just trying to understand the dishes, he was memorizing the prices, clearly trying to choose the cheapest options. Gabriel, I want you to choose what you most want to eat, not what costs the least. The boy looked up in surprise. How did you know? Because I would do the same thing in your place. Jonathan smiled. My father taught me that kindness is priceless, but it has value. Today, the value is in you feeling welcome. While they waited for their food, Jonathan began asking questions that revealed much more about Gabriel than any adult had ever bothered to find out before. Not only did the boy study at night, he was at the top of his class. Not only did he survive on the streets, he helped other more vulnerable homeless people by sharing food and protecting younger children. Not only did he read books he found in the trash, he wrote complex essays on society and justice that revealed an understanding of the world that would make many college students blush with shame. Have you ever thought about going to college? Jonathan asked. Gabriel laughed softly, but without bitterness. Sir, I can barely afford food. College is too big a dream for someone like me. Someone like you? Jonathan repeated. Gabriel, someone like you is exactly the kind of person who should be in college. In fact, he paused, an idea forming in his mind. Would you like to take a test for me? What kind of test? Jonathan took out his cell phone and opened a translation app. I want you to talk to me in French about any subject you choose. Just to give me an idea of your level. Gabriel hesitated, but then began to speak in fluent, well-articulated French about his dreams of one day studying literature. As he spoke, Jonathan noticed that several people at nearby tables had stopped eating to listen, clearly impressed by the boy's eloquence and perfect pronunciation. It was at that moment that an elegant woman from the next table approached. Excuse me, she said in English, I couldn't help overhearing. I'm a language professor at Columbia University, and I haven't heard such beautiful French from a self-taught speaker in years. How did you learn? Gabriel blushed and replied in near-perfect English. Books, movies with subtitles when I can watch them at the library, and lots of practice talking to myself. The professor, who introduced herself as Dr. Sarah Chun, sat down at their table with Jonathan's permission. Have you ever taken any proficiency tests? SAT? TOEFL? No, ma'am. I've never had the money for that. Dr. Chun exchanged a meaningful glance with Jonathan. You know, our university has a scholarship program for exceptional students in vulnerable situations. If you're interested, I can arrange some free tests. Gabriel looked at Jonathan as if asking for permission to dream. That would be amazing. Jonathan felt something stirring in his chest, a feeling he hadn't experienced since David was alive, the feeling that he was doing something truly important. Dr. Chun, would it be possible to schedule those tests for next week? Of course. Actually, I'll do better than that. Gabriel, how about you come to the university tomorrow? I'd like some of my colleagues to meet you. I have a feeling you might be just what we're looking for our pilot program. After the professor left, leaving his card and scheduling an appointment for the next day, Gabriel was visibly moved. Mr. Jonathan, I don't know how to thank you. No one has ever believed in me like this before. Gabriel, you don't need to thank me. You just need to be yourself and show the world what you're capable of. Jonathan paused, feeling that there was something else he needed to say. And I also need you to know something. I had a son. He died 5 years ago, he was your age. And today, for the first time since then, I feel like maybe there's a reason for everything that happened. A reason for me to be here right now with you. Gabriel nodded silently, realizing the emotional weight of those words. You said had. May I ask what happened? Cancer. He fought for 2 years, but, Jonathan took a deep breath. He was like you. Smart, kind, always helping others even when he was suffering. Seeing you today reminded me that there are still good people in the world. What Jonathan didn't know was that Victoria, humiliated and furious, had already begun her own campaign of revenge. At that very moment, she was sitting at the bar of the most exclusive club in town, surrounded by her equally prejudiced friends, telling a completely distorted version of events. In her narrative, she was the victim of a man who had lost his mind, and was being manipulated by a smart street kid who only wanted money. But there was something Victoria didn't realize as she poisoned every word with her bitterness and prejudice. Some of the people listening to her weren't just listening, they were recording. And in the age of social media, certain words have a peculiar way of coming back to haunt those who utter them, especially when they reveal the true character of those who hide behind a facade of respectability. Gabriel, completely oblivious to the storm Victoria was brewing, walked alongside Jonathan with an expression that mixed hope and disbelief. For the first time in years, the future looked bright, full of possibilities he had never dared to imagine. What he couldn't foresee was that sometimes, when we finally find our chance to shine, there is always someone trying to extinguish our light, and that the true measure of our character is revealed not in how we deal with success, but in how we face those who try to destroy us for simply existing. 3 days later, Victoria woke up to find that her life had become a viral nightmare. The video of her poisonous words at the club had been posted on every social media platform with the hashtag #EliteRacism, racking up millions of views in less than 24 hours. These people need to learn to fend for themselves. They'll steal your wallet, beggars are worthless. Her own words echoed back at her through every indignant comment, every angry share. Her phone wouldn't stop ringing. First it was Marcus, her boss at the luxury advertising agency where she worked as an account executive. Victoria, you're fired. Our clients are canceling contracts. We can't have someone associated with this kind of behavior representing our company. Next was Amanda, her best friend and organizer of the local elite's social events. I'm sorry, Vic, but you can no longer participate in our circles. The other girls are furious. You've embarrassed us. One by one, every pillar of her social life collapsed. The exclusive club canceled her membership. Her friends stopped answering her calls. Even the luxurious apartment she shared with 2 roommates was in jeopardy, as they demanded that she move out immediately. While Victoria watched her world fall apart, Gabriel was living the opposite of a fairy tale. At Columbia University, he had impressed not only Dr. Chun, but an entire team of expert professors. His language proficiency tests broke institutional records. In my 20 years of academia, I have never seen a self-taught student with this level of linguistic mastery, declared Dr. Martinez, director of the Modern Languages Department. Gabriel is not only eligible for a full scholarship, he is exactly the kind of exceptional student our university needs to highlight. Jonathan watched everything with a pride he hadn't felt in years. Seeing him there, on the prestigious campus, discussing French literature with renowned professors, was like watching a miracle unfold in real time. "Are you sure you want to do this?" Jonathan asked as they walked across campus after the academic council meeting. Gabriel smiled, clutching the acceptance letter that would change his life forever. "Mr. Jonathan, for the first time in my life, I am absolutely certain about something." It was at that moment that Jonathan's phone rang. It was Victoria, and her voice was unrecognizable with despair. "Jonathan, please, you have to help me. My whole life is falling apart because of a stupid video. I didn't mean those things, I was angry, you know me." "Victoria," Jonathan interrupted her calmly. "You showed exactly who you are. Those weren't words spoken in the heat of the moment, that was your true character coming out. But you don't understand. I lost my job, my friends, everything. People are threatening me on the internet. Please, can you post something defending my character?" Jonathan looked at Gabriel, who was watching a philosophy class through the glass window of a nearby room, completely absorbed in the knowledge that was finally within his reach. "Victoria, 3 days ago you said I was being a fool for treating Gabriel like a human being. Today, he just received a full scholarship to one of the best universities in the country. Who do you think was right?" The silence on the other end of the line was eloquent. "Her consequences are not my fault or Gabriel's," Jonathan continued. "They are a direct result of her choices and her words. And frankly, for the first time in a long time, I feel like justice has served her right." Gabriel approached when Jonathan finished the call. Was she asking for help? She was. "But you know what the difference is between you two, Gabriel? When you needed help, it wasn't because you had hurt someone or revealed a heart full of prejudice. It was simply because the world hadn't given you the chance you deserved." That afternoon, while Gabriel chose his first books at the university bookstore, Victoria sat alone in her empty apartment, reading online comments that dissected every cruel word she had uttered. Jonathan's followers had doubled after someone discovered her connection to the viral story, but he used his new platform for something Victoria would never do, promoting Gabriel and other talented young people in similar situations. "Real privilege isn't being born with opportunities," he posted on his social media, along with a photo of Gabriel in the Columbia Library. "It's recognizing talent wherever it appears and having the humility to learn from it." Victoria read that post and realized she had lost not only a boyfriend, but the chance to become a better person. She had chosen prejudice over compassion, and now she was reaping exactly what she had sown. The irony was that while she lost everything by revealing her true nature, Gabriel gained everything by simply being who he always was, someone who saw kindness where others saw only differences, someone who offered hope where others spread discrimination. But there was one last revelation that neither Victoria nor Gabriel knew yet, something Jonathan had discovered that morning that would make this story of justice even more profound and emotionally devastating than anyone could have imagined. 6 months later, Gabriel stood on the university stage receiving the award for Best Freshman of the Year. His full scholarship had turned into something bigger, a foundation created by Jonathan for talented young people in vulnerable situations. Victoria watched it all on social media from the tiny apartment where she now lived, supported by a part-time job at a call center. Her former friends posted photos with Gabriel at charity events, calling him an inspiration, the same word she had used sarcastically months ago. "Not only has young Gabriel Santos broken every academic record," announced the dean during the ceremony, "but his story reminds us that a person's true value lies not in his origins, but in his character." Jonathan watched from the front row, tears in his eyes. That morning he had finally told Gabriel about the discovery he had made weeks ago. The boy had been born in the same hospital as David, on the same day, at almost the same time. The son he had lost to cancer and the son he had gained from life seemed connected by a destiny that neither of them could explain. "Mr. Jonathan," Gabriel had whispered after learning of the coincidence, "I think your son sent me to you." During his acceptance speech, Gabriel mentioned Victoria by name. "I am even grateful to those who doubted me, because they taught me that the best response to prejudice is to prove them wrong through success." Victoria closed her laptop, finally understanding the difference between them. While she had used words to try to diminish someone, Gabriel used achievements to elevate everyone. Jonathan had created a restaurant empire that employed homeless youth. Gabriel had become one of the youngest lawyers to graduate with highest honors. Victoria continued alone, having lost everything for revealing who she really was. True justice was not in Victoria's downfall, but in Gabriel's rise. He had turned humiliation into fuel for success, proving that when you have solid character, even obstacles become stepping stones. Sometimes the universe puts people in our path not by chance, but because we need each other to become who we are meant to be. Subscribe to the channel for more stories that show how kindness always finds a way to triumph over prejudice.